This doesn't get any easier and less nerve-wracking, so make it all easy on us, and especially me. Um,
This is your first feature, right, Charlie?
this is my first feature, yeah. And I somehow got to do it with the studio, so Universal and Focus, they put on all of this, and like they're kind of like, I'm not just paying praise to the people who are buttering the bread, like sincerely, like it's a filmmaker's dream to have been able to work with them and for how supportive they are, for all the wacky ideas that we had that we put into this movie, and we just got nothing but confidence and support from them. So to Kiska, to Cujo, to Jason, to Donna, like I know that I've never met any of you in person because we did this all remote. But thank you, sincerely. This is a big topic that it kind of became our mission to make personal. You know, for Daniel and I, Daniel Roher is unfortunately not here, but we miss him and we love him. We both found we were becoming fathers the very same week. So we had to find a way to, you know, bottle those anxieties that we had about what world our children were being brought into with this film. In the journey of filmmaking, a lot of personal stuff happens through making this film. Like I had a cancer scare, family members died, friends died, and through it we all just had each other to make this film. So yeah, it's good to be here, and it's good to be here with this fine gentleman, Daniel Kwan.
As Charlie alluded to, this is a project that required a team that kind of spanned across the North American continent. And it's very rare for us to be standing next to each other. I didn't know. I always forget how tall you are. But that being said, a lot of people are from LA. A lot of the core team live and work in LA, and I just want to acknowledge that a lot of those people are here today. We'll do the whole applause and thank you and stand up at the end of the movie. But I just want to say thank you to the incredible team that works tirelessly on this project. This project was a labor of love, but it was also a labor of stress and anxiety and existential dread and
Now we give that all to you.
exactly. But it also was a labor of hope. I think we really all believed in the ability of storytelling to bring clarity to really overwhelming, confusing, and complex issues like this one at hand. And I just want to thank the people who put so much time and effort into condensing all of it into the movie you're about to watch. And again, thank you to Focus for believing in the movie enough to actually put it in theaters. Putting a movie, putting a feature documentary in theaters all around the country in 2026. Who would have thought? This is very exciting to us. But it really is important that it to me, the more people watch it, the bigger the conversation, the higher possibility of us actually working together and figuring this problem out together. So thank you so much. Stick around for after the movie. There will be a short Q&A, and also at the reception, come and hang out, talk to us. We all want to be talking to you. So just come and hang out and enjoy the ride. Thank you.
Help me welcome the filmmakers, co-director Charlie Tyrell. Oscar winner Daniel Kwan. Producer Ted Tremper. Tristan Harris, co-founder of the Center for Humane Technology. And then the rest of the filmmaking team, Oscar winners Diane Becker, Jonathan Wang, and Shane Boris. This is not intimidating at all. Charlie, I thought we would start with you. Congratulations, by the way. What an incredible film. And I thought one of the things that the film does so effectively is it takes this issue that is arguably the most pressing and urgent issue facing humanity ever and makes it really accessible, intimate, and some would say even evergreen. Can you talk a little bit about the filmmaking process, how you landed on this angle, and what the conversations were like, how you decided to shape what this movie would be?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you everyone again. But like I spoke to before the film, Daniel and I found we were becoming parents at the same time. So fatherhood was suggested by Jonathan, and we decided to throw Daniel into the mix, and I very happily became the father behind the scenes. So that angle of fatherhood really gave us an initial narrative framework, but the real challenge, like you said, was finding the evergreen way to tell the story. Things were changing every day. Sam Altman was ousted by his board and then put back in 48 hours later. So we learned pretty early on that we couldn't be reactive and reactionary to what was happening in the landscape, and we had to really kind of measure ourselves and moderate ourselves to make sure that we were telling a version of the story that would still hold water in 3 months after the film came out, 3 years after it came out. And kind of contradictory to that, not only do we want to be as evergreen as possible, but we also want to acknowledge that this is a shift in time, and this is kind of a time capsule of that. So I'm going to stop talking now.
I'm gonna make you keep talking now. How's the baby?
Mine?
Yeah.
He's good. He has a little sister coming in June.
Oh wow! Really?
Yeah, not because I'm any more confident things are going to work out. But honestly, Dario's answer, like, you kind of just have to keep, like any other parents here, you kind of just have to do what you're going to keep doing anyways. His name's Sonny. I miss him very much.
Oh, hey, Sonny.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. You should have brought him. How many parents are in the audience? Wow. Round of applause for you guys. I have a question that will benefit you guys shortly. But wait, but can I ask you though, just staying on the baby? So were you and Daniel sort of having the same crisis at the same time? I mean, or did you balance them out at all?
Daniel and I both have ADHD. He has the notebook version. I have the Honda Civic version. But yes, we were both. I'm a much more internal person and kind of process things quietly, and people think I'm okay, but I'm actually stressed out all the time. But yes, we were, in short, going through like everything that Daniel felt and experienced in his panic attack with his parents. Like, I call my mom all the time just to sound off everything that's driving me insane or scaring the shit out of me.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a way for me to exercise some of my demons as well with how I'm feeling about all of this. But like I said, very happily off camera.
Yeah. Well, thank you. How are you feeling right now, by the way?
Good.
All right.
Yeah.
Should be feeling good.
Thank you for asking.
Dan Kwan, my favorite person to ever interview, and this will be the hardest interview we've ever done because normally I get to ask you tons of questions about AI and we could talk for hours, but the one question I never asked you throughout this whole process is how you got involved in producing this, because this is your first movie after Everything Everywhere All at Once. You could have gone off and directed your own AI documentary. You're nearly an expert in the field too. How did you get involved in this project, and why did you decide to produce it?
That's a great question. Before we go on, I know we only have 15 minutes. Anyone who worked on the movie who's here, I'd love you to stand up for a second. We have an incredible, like a couple, actually, I don't know how many people sat through the movie.
Including Joseph.
Yeah, there you guys go. Thank you so much. This was, thank you guys. Everyone who's standing had to work so hard and put so much of their time and energy and also their mental energy into the film. But to answer your question of how I got involved, I think I mean, to be honest, I'm someone who's like constantly thinking about technology and the ways it shapes my job as a storyteller, and so I've been kind of following a lot of people talking about technology and the ways it's shaping society and all these things. And one of those people just happens to be Tristan and Asa, actually, who they have an amazing podcast called Your Undivided Attention. So I got hooked on that. And I remember it was actually after Everything Everywhere came out, and it was doing pretty well. And our manager, who's here somewhere, Josh, hi Josh, he asked, hey, you could meet anyone right now because you guys are so hot. Who do you want to sit down with? And I'm like, it's really nerdy, but like we were working on a script about technology in the future and all those things. I was like, I want to sit down with Tristan and Asa and just like pick their brains. And so we grabbed dinner or lunch with them one day during the press tour on Everything Everywhere, and we kind of formed a relationship through that, and just like through those conversations and kind of building more context for where things were going and just the sort of underlying drivers behind technology. And yeah, it just made me realize like, I would love to lend my my abilities and my position to you know, building something like this to give us all something to look at and talk about together. But also at the same time, we knew that me and John knew we had never done documentaries before, and we really wanted to, we humbly wanted to bring in people who knew what they were doing, and so we called up Shane and Di, who had just done Navalny, which was an amazing doc. Round of applause for that. And then the team just started to assemble from there, and we just kind of everyone stepped in very confidently but blindly into the darkness, and it was
A lot of Lord of the Rings analogies.
yes.
Like in everything.
But yeah, the last thing I'll say is it was the most humbling experience of my life. It was really, I mean, besides becoming a father, that was way more humbling than anything. But beyond that, work-wise, this movie tested me and really it broke us all a couple times. But we're still here, and we're excited to kind of continue this conversation. And like, this is just the beginning. And I know that like this movie will never be able to encompass everything. But if we can at least, again, now you guys all get to link arms with us and step confidently into the darkness as we try to figure out what we do together. Yeah.
So well said. Now you can see why I always want to speak to him. Ted, did you have any moments that almost broke you?
Oh my goodness. Well, and one thing I think that hasn't been mentioned yet is the initial conception. We were going to do the movie in 8 months, and it took 2.5 years. And so I'm not a big math guy, but that's quite a bit longer. Yeah, there were. Actually, I really do want to show Joseph. Will you stand up one more time? This is Joseph Beebe. He's the story producer of the film, and this is the first screening he's actually gotten to go to because of a variety of things. But every moment almost broke me. But the human beings that are involved in it, including my wife, who's here, you can give her a wonderful round of applause as well. We all kept each other sane through humor and through levity and through inventing taking a Google spreadsheet that was just a normal Google spreadsheet, but calling it Bucketown, USA. And Bucketown, USA is where all of the lore of AI lives. And it's a theme park where all the different people who are in all the different factions and all the different ideologies and all the different schemas of what they believe and who the people that they're related to and they believe, that's in Bucketown, USA. I'm the mayor. Joseph is the sheriff. EJ, where's EJ Lice? Our co-producer, or our associate producer, EJ. I don't remember your role, EJ, but it was probably something ridiculous. You go crazy, but then you have each other. That's what I would say is that all of this is you go crazy, but you have each other. I've been thinking a lot about the phrase that I think about with what we are doing with AI and the work that Dan and John and a lot of the people here do with the Creators Coalition on AI. And it's the phrase I keep thinking about is that we can because we must. That's it. We can because we must. Yeah, I'm not sure that answers your question, but
yes.
Thank you.
This is so uplifting and very I'm feeling the family love here tonight. I did not expect all that. It's an endorsement for humanity. Tristan, I have like 10,000 questions for you, and we can't do them all in 15 minutes. I'm going to come right back to you. I just want to ask one final question of these three guys, and then I'm going to get to my at least 999 questions for you. Ted, Dan, and Charlie, I wanted to ask you, you guys landed interviews with so many powerful figures who are shaping AI, Sam Altman, Dario Demis, others that didn't appear in the film. We all are accustomed to seeing them in so many interviews on TV, hearing podcasts with them. What were they like when the cameras weren't rolling? Or what struck you most about just sharing the room with them, seeing how they operate, seeing them off camera?
So there was a point in my life where I had listened to or read every single word that any of those three had ever said publicly. And so when you are with them for 2 hours in a room, it's a curious experience because you know more about them than certainly they know about you, or you may know about them than maybe anybody does. And the thing that the subtext, a lot of the questions I've been asked about meeting them is like, were they nice people? Like, were they trustworthy? And I always go back to a thing that Tristan says that I think a lot of, it's an important insight that if the future of the human race is dependent upon whether or not 5 people are nice, then we're not existing in a system that can co-evolve with this technology. And so anecdotal things to tell you Sam Altman, shorter than you think he's going to be, and he's got a handshake like a shotgun blast. Like, that is neither here nor there when it comes to the ways that we need to upgrade our systems to be able to co-evolve with strong technology. Demis Hassabis, real nice fellow. Like, it's like there's anecdotal things. I guess I'm blathering, but they're human beings. And especially right now, and Asa, I think you has said so incredibly well that basically humanity has kicked the can of technology down the road since the moment we sharpened a rock into an axe. And we've gotten to a point where we need to reconcile the fact that this technology has become strong enough so that we have to actually focus on the systemic changes that need to be made for us to be able to survive as a species. That's the time. This is the time to do that. And all of us can be doing it in every single domain, as you say in the film. Like, once we actually reach that tipping point where there are more people who are trying to shape this technology and have it go well than there are people who are running recklessly, we can do it. Like, I really do believe, and I'm tremendously optimistic in humanity's capacity to do that.
Perfect. Nice segue to get back to Tristan. You drop so many bombs in this movie. I've seen it many times. My jaw hits the floor every time. I think the first time I really wanted to pause it, but it was a screening with other journalists and I couldn't. But you said, I know people who work in AI risk who don't expect their children to make it to high school. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Any updates?
Yeah, I remember the moment in the interview when we were recording that, and I almost wish I hadn't said it. One of the things that's hard for me is Asa, who's also here. Asa, are you here? Woo! Stand up there. That's Asa in the background.
Also, Peter Diamandis is here. Peter
Diamandis still here? Peter?
Hey, Peter Diamandis. Hello, thanks for being here, sir.
One of the things that's hard, Asa and I come from Silicon Valley, so we talk to people in the tech industry, we know the founders, we hear things that a lot of the world doesn't hear. And actually, I said the same thing in The Social Dilemma. When there's this reality that's being created by a small community of people in a specific culture, in a specific time and place, who studied and thought about and conceptualized the world in very specific technical and engineering ways, and then they make things that then colonize and terraform the world inside of the paradigm of thought that they're living in. And there's often things that they're thinking that I think if the rest of the world knew or understood, they may not feel the same way that this small group of people who see the world in a very particular way is. I don't think that everybody wants to upload their brains and just merge with machines. If you ask regular people, I don't think people all want to just not have a job or a way to put food on the table if AI is replacing a lot of human labor and there's no transition plan. So we've got real things to contend with. And I think the goal for me in part of this film is how do we close the asymmetry between the inside knowledge of people in the tech industry and the issues that are at play and make sure that the public understands that. And for me, this film is very inspired by the impact of the film The Day After. People here remember that film from 1982, 83? Yeah. Some of you, those remember, made for television movie, 1982, 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night, aired on primetime TV about what would happen in a nuclear war. And President Reagan saw it, was depressed for 2 weeks, and then he took that depression and turned it into agency. And that led to the first arms control talks in Reykjavik between the Soviet Union and the US. And that led to a more stable world. And I don't want you to fall into the trap when you see this movie of believing that the default trajectory that we're on is inevitable, because it's not. There's an interview with Robert Oppenheimer in 1960 when he's asked, is there anything we could do about the atomic bomb? 1960. And he says, it's too late. If you wanted to do something about regulating the spread of nuclear weapons, you had to do it the day after Trinity, which was the first atomic test. He was wrong. He didn't see, even the creator of the atomic bomb, that a lot of people had to invent stuff that we didn't even know about in 1945. We had to invent seismic monitoring and satellites and arms controls. We had to invent all that stuff. And if we're wanting to get to that other path, whatever it's not this one, then we have to be committed to finding it and oriented in that way, because the only way we're going to find it is if we're oriented towards it and believing in it together. So my deepest hope is that this film creates the collective clarity that that's possible.
Speaking of the atomic bomb, can I ask you about the recent news about the Department of Defense signing a deal with OpenAI? I know that was not covered in the film. I'm sure you have thoughts. I want to hear them.
Well, I think actually this film is coming out at a very interesting moment where that made the issue so much more salient for people. And one thing I will say in terms of what people can do, and something that's very inspiring for me coming off the back of that news story, for people who don't know, is the whole idea that Anthropic didn't want their technology, their AI, to be used by the Department of Defense for domestic surveillance of Americans. And then when they pulled out the contract, ChatGPT and Sam Altman rushed in and said, we'll do that job for the US government. And what happened was it was the biggest drop in ChatGPT subscriptions that had ever happened, and the biggest surge of Anthropic subscriptions that had ever happened. Now you might think consumer boycotts, like, why is that going to do anything? Well, you have to recognize these companies have taken on so much debt and so much money that if ChatGPT subscriptions are not going up and they're more like flatlining or just going up a little bit, that actually has a huge impact. So part of the human movement is actually putting your money and voting for the technologies that you believe in and the futures that they're creating, the contracts that they do.
If I can add one more thing.
Yeah.
So Deborah Raji, who's in the film, she was instrumental in essentially launching a campaign to point out that the facial recognition technology that was being sold from Amazon to law enforcement agencies was not very good. Like, it actually a lot of times would not match with people properly, and pregnant women would get thrown in jail for a weekend because there was a false facial recognition hit. And so they led this campaign, and Amazon stopped selling to law enforcement. And we all celebrated in the same way that, hey, if you don't want mass surveillance of American citizens or autonomous weapons, which is the other caveat from that deal, I think we can all agree that we maybe don't like that. And that's not where the story ends, because Amazon, they said this technology, and why would you have technology and not use it to make money? So they bought Ring, and then Ring was able to give their information to law enforcement. And the moral of that story to me is not necessarily that we just have to keep an eye on what our values and the things we care about most are, understanding that the incentives that exist right now everywhere on earth are driven toward really, really specific kinds of things, like, hey, I've got this technology I can make money off of, let's make money off of it. And it's up to all of us, when we notice those different things, just really to speak up, because it will be a constant a battle. And it's not even a battle, it's just understanding there's a relationship. If you look at the thing I always want to try to get through to people is, like, none of this even has to suck about the way that we push back. We can get together with friends and we can say, hey, will you send an email to this company and say, or will you not use this company and use this one? Did you hear about this? You get to build community and recovery circles. The saying that they have that I love is that the opposite of addiction is connection and curiosity. And we unfortunately are addicted to the way that technology has been deployed to our society. And the way that we get past that is together. And it doesn't have to suck.
Amazing. Well said. You guys, the red light is flashing. We have to end, but I don't want to end there. So I'm going to sneak in one last question. It's going to be a quick hit. Everyone's going to answer.
Okay.
Because we want to end. I'm taking this question from the film, which ends on a hopeful tone. So I'm just going to ask everyone, what gives you hope? And then you give a quick hit, and then we'll go down the line. Charlie.
Oh, thank you for making me go first. Human history of being able to overcome challenges when we face them. We've fucked up a lot of times, and there's more of that to come, but I think that challenges present the best qualities of us sometimes.
Right now, there are a lot of people who are seeing all the problems in the world, not just AI, but climate change, and income inequality, and just rise of dictatorships. All these problems that we are crippled by every day. There are very smart people working really hard to build parallel systems, to build alternatives, to build different futures, and we are too distracted to be cheerleading them and chasing them and following them. I just encourage anyone who is despairing about any problem. I promise you, there's someone out there building a solution, and there's some they need your help. And so, to me, that is the hope I find. Is like every single problem I can think of, I've been following the people who are building those solutions, and I've been trying to figure out how I can help. And I think you look at anywhere in the U.S. that's happening today. So that's very exciting for me.
When the Big Beautiful Bill was being passed, there had been a moratorium that had been put on AI regulation in the states. That we basically said that bill, somebody snuck in there, no state should have the right to regulate AI. And the U.S. Senate, which I'm not sure if you guys have been following the news, doesn't tend to agree very much, voted 99-1 to remove that provision so that states could regulate AI by themselves. That's unbelievable. think about that. Like, think about how you feel about the Senate and the fact that they did that. That's pretty great. And yeah, even though it's not going to be perfect, it's going to be messy. Those things like that human beings, regardless of what their background is, that we can step over political division and these things and actually recognize that there are really, really very clear things that we have in common, regardless of how you feel about the technology and regardless of what you believe politically, what your background is, etc.
What gives me hope is when you, what? Oh, okay. When you walk people through the basic facts, I think, of some of the trajectory that we're on, and we don't have a transition plan for automating this many jobs this quickly without a transition plan, the entire room is in agreement that something is wrong. I watch people, I ask, who's stoked about that default path that we just talked about? And I did it on Bill Maher, I broke the fourth wall on Friday night. I said, who's stoked about this? And there's like no one who's stoked about that. And so what that says to me, what that gives me hope is there's actually universal agreement for protecting a more human future. And in a way, I think of it as the human movement. Technology's always been encroaching on our humanity in small ways. Social media, we saw the first draft of attention, psychology, children's development, our information environment has encroached on all those. But AI is now encroaching on the last bit of it. And so it's a universal human issue, bless you, universal human issue that whether you're a Muslim or Christian or Jewish or you're Democrat or Republican, our humanity is the thing we have to protect. And the inspiring thing that comes to mind is that as of just 2 weeks ago, India and Indonesia joined the list of Australia, Spain, Denmark, France in doing bans for social media for kids under 16 years old. This is a huge thing. This is 25% of the world's population is now going to be living in a country where social media is banned for kids under 16. As someone who's worked on that topic for 12 years, it is unbelievable that when you start to shift common knowledge, that everyone knows that there's a problem, then things can actually shift. And so my deep hope is that this film, with your help and getting many people to see it in DC and Congress and all around the world, can create that common knowledge and we can turn the tide on this issue as well.
I'm going to keep it quick. The kids give me hope. I think the young generation, they're growing up in a completely technical world and they're very skeptical of AI. I have a son, he tells me this all the time. So the fact that they want to be grounded here on the planet as they interact with technology, that's the future.
I think this movie is a microcosm of a lot of differing views. And I get hope when I think about the fact that we came together. Like, if you took a poll of each one of us and what we wanted this movie to be, we would have been like, you guys are fucked. You guys are not making a movie anytime soon. But we made a movie at the end of this. And it gives me hope that you can actually coordinate if you have good faith conversations with people. We have a lot of bad faith in our world. And I think a lot of times we're watching these CEOs talk about these AI technologies, and it just feels like bad faith. We look at politicians, it feels bad faith. But this feels like an opportunity for us to say, let's have good faith conversations, because what we're going to do is we're actually going to ask the fundamental question of what does it mean to flourish as a human? Because this technology, it feels as though it's imputing in us, this is what it means to be important as a human. And I look at it and I'm like, that makes me feel gross. It actually isn't what I want. And when I think about what does it mean to flourish, what would I want my kids, which I don't have, to experience? But it is something, if we come together and we say, it feels pretty common sense that we want these things. And we can say, yeah, we want them. And we can work together to do it. And we are the shining example that you can do it. We can pull it off. And this is this group here and you who worked on the movie. That's what gives me hope.
I guess first the apocalyptic side, which is that life is hard and it's hard to keep going sometimes in the face of that. And Dan, you use this metaphor, which is really powerful for me, of now that we've seen this movie, we are a choir. We have to sort of elevate our voice and express what we want this technology to be and how we want it to relate to our society in the future. But as in any choir, sometimes you have to take a breath, and sometimes we can all take that breath and take care of ourselves, knowing that the person next to us is going to keep singing and they're going to keep doing the work. And so what gives me hope is that I'm not alone in this, that we now are together in this choir, adding our voice and making sure that the technology serves humanity and the planet.
Another Dan Kwan quote. You guys give me hope. Thank you so much for being here, for doing this, making this movie. Thank you guys for coming. Please, I feel like this movie should be required viewing. And on that note, it opens March 27th. So please tell every human being you know to go see it when it opens in theaters. And we're going to test Ted's human connection theory downstairs at Fanny. So please join us for the post-screening reception. You can ask any questions there. We'll all be there. The only rule is the questions cannot be written by ChatGPT. So we'll see you downstairs.